within the mountain of mind-bogglingly complex issues that could make Britain's exit from the EU very ugly, there is one that sits above all others. I'm talking, of course, about the Irish border. First, let's look at some history. 20 years ago, the Good Friday Agreement ended decades of violence in Northern Ireland. It's been hailed as a 35-page diplomatic miracle, but there were some important omissions. Avoiding a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland? Not mentioned. A ban on customs checks? Not in there either. The reason? It was taken for granted. As EU members, the UK and Ireland had already shared some sovereignty, with common courts and common laws. That helped blur the choice between a united Ireland and a united kingdom, and it gave legal cover for an invisible border. But Brexit has thrown that into doubt. Britain's break from the EU means drawing a new regulatory line for customs, goods standards and VAT. Let's look at the options. You can draw a line around the entire UK, Ireland and the EU. That would avoid introducing a hard border, of course, because it essentially is the way that things operate now. And that's the problem. The UK would need to stay in a customs union with the EU. Doing so would restrict UK trade deals with other countries, a red line for Brexiters. It would also mean accepting the EU regulatory regime so goods or services can flow freely, but Britain would have no say on the rules. Another option is to draw a regulatory line along the north-south Irish land border. But fear not, this wouldn't be a hard border, it would be invisible. Brexiters think whizzy technology could achieve this. The EU calls it magical thinking. Even if the necessary technology was developed, border cameras would still be needed, and police worry that type of physical infrastructure would be attacked. The final option is to draw a line along the Irish Sea. Much of Northern Ireland's economy would essentially remain under EU rule, with checks to make sure any trade with the rest of the UK is EU compliant. This is the EU's backstop plan, which would come into force unless and until something better is found. It avoids a hard border in Ireland, sure, and the EU's single market is protected against British goods sneaking in. But Theresa May says no Prime Minister could accept dividing the UK in this way. Possibly. The Irish question has evaded answers for 400 years. Would you bet on it being solved by Christmas? There are 3 ways out of this tight spot: buy time, surrender, or fight. Britain wants to buy time by making the backstop option cover the entire UK, at least for a little longer. But the EU reckons that's just a trade deal in disguise and still wants an indefinite Northern Ireland backstop. Theresa May could just accept staying in a customs union permanently. Finally, she could call the EU's bluff, but that means heading towards the Brexit cliff edge and betting the EU flinches first.